Welcome to Aging Gracefully and Strong. This is Dr. Melinda at the IQ Podcast Studio. I am very pleased to introduce Jeannie Baldomero, who is my special guest today.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about one of our favorite topics, mothers and their teen daughters. Oh my goodness. This should be a good one.
This will be good.
Yes. So I want to start with you telling us your story and how you came about helping moms of tween and teen girls. Tell us about that.
Well, first, I wanted to thank you for having me on your show and being able to share something that I'm really, really passionate about. But to just start my story, I come from a military and immigrant family. And growing up in the United States and born in the United States, my parents kind of, I wouldn't say struggle, but struggled kind of learning the culture, and that affected the way they raised us. You know, we came from a very authoritative home. My parents worked very, very hard to support us, to take care of their family, as well as navigating a country they really don't know about. And so that affected their parenting and raising us. When I say us, me and my brother.
I know this story. I think I lived this story with you.
I think you can relate, right?
Yes, I can relate to this story.
And so as a result, and this is something I haven't really realized until an adult, that impacted me based on how I grew up as a middle school 13-year-old, exploring independence, wanting control for my life. I actually dated at 13 against my father, my dad, my mom's will. My first boyfriend was a gang member. Totally opposite, I'm sure, of what they wanted for me.
Was that on purpose, by the way? Or is that just because that's who you loved, that you wanted to hang out with?
That's who I wanted to hang out with at the time. I think I grew up very rebellious. If my parents said no, it was yes for me. And so that's just the way I grew up. High school, I think some of that rebellion kind of tapered down, but some of these decisions that I've made, those deep-seated decisions that affected me in my childhood, actually made some decisions that were a lot bigger and bigger ramifications and consequences growing as a teen and young adult. I struggled with worth, with being enough, and with perfectionism and having to perform. My parents were very strict. Grades mattered more. And that affected me as a woman growing up, that I've always yearned for the next best thing, wanted to perform and always be the best at it, and didn't learn how to give myself some grace. Again, I love my mom. That affected my relationship, and we've since mended some of the things that we had to go through as teens. And so when I think about my mom, I think about, gosh, how she didn't really have the community or the resources or tools to raise someone like me, who was very hard-headed, who was very rebellious, and didn't want to listen to my parents, right? Like most typical teens.
Right. And I have the same kind of mother who was very authoritative and really demanded me to do the best that I could always do, but expected it as well. Right. So nothing short of straight A's and being number one. And you know, it's very stressful as a teenager to live up to that when you're going through all these changes. So I hear what you said. And, you know, a lot of, I feel for her looking back now, being a mother, because I was the oldest of four. And my father, who was also in the Navy, was gone for 6 to 9 months at a time. So my mom was a single mom for most of the year. So I know that they had their own issues and they didn't really talk to us. I mean, do you ever remember having a conversation with your mom about boys or life or anything like very intimate? I didn't have that with my mother. And I don't know if it was just generational or she just expected me to be able to figure it out, I guess. But it was very different than I think what the relationships that we have with our kids now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Right when you said, I don't think our parents really talked about relationships with boys. I mean, it's natural for for women to and young girls to be attracted to the opposite sex. I remember, and you are a doctor, so I know you understand this. When I had my first period, my mom, this is her sex talk. I came out of the door. She says, "You're a lady now. Stay away from boys." And that was her sex talk.
It.
Yeah, right. That was it. And I think it was some discomfort and not knowing.
Not scary, right?
It is kind of scary because then that means I had to figure it out myself because my mom wasn't willing to talk about and get uncomfortable and talk about that with me, which led to a lot of mistakes that I've made as a teen because I felt like I couldn't go to my mom during that time. And I think it was a lot of discomfort and how they were raised, maybe back in the country, that you really don't talk to your parents unless you're talked to. Right. You know, and that carried over here. But we're just so relational that we desired that as kids. We're just not obedient. We're just not these little beings that need to do what they're told. And I think, and when you were going back to the expectation of having excellence in grades, excellence in everything you do, that there is a pressure point. And that pressure point was the rebellion. It was the frustration of how do I deal with having to perform for my parents and I have no outlet to even say that, what if this is something I don't really want, right?
So let's fast forward to now. Why are you so focused on helping moms with teenage girls? How did that come about?
So I actually lead a girls group. So I led this girls group since they were in 5th grade. My daughter happens to be in this group, and that's my primary motivation of why I'm leading this group is because I wanted to be involved in her life. I wanted to build a relationship, especially going into the tween stages. So being involved early on in 5th grade set up a stage of a time where she was very welcoming. Like she welcomed me into her circle. And we intentionally set up this group of other girls. Now they are freshmen in high school. And we have such a great relationship. And the reason why I am focusing more on moms with teen girls is because I realized that after speaking to some of these girls, regardless of where you come from, your ethnicity, your financial background, these girls still have the same issues I did when I was a teen. And moms still are frustrated and struggle with raising them the way they want to raise them and struggle having this connection with them. And so that is why my heart is there, because I want girls to really embrace in their identity. If we can help give them confidence, if we can help embrace them for who they are and what they have to offer, I think a lot of issues that women deal with today, as far as their worthiness, accepting themselves, and really not being a people pleaser, if we can help them in this stage, I think they're better off in becoming better, confident women when they're our age, right?
And no, I totally agree. And I love, and this is something that I want to make sure the mothers get. If you want to be closer to your daughter, then get to know their friends. I learned that. I have 4 kids, 3 boys and 1 girl. And I actually donated my time as a Girl Scout troop leader for 6 years, just so that I could be part of the group. Because face it, they don't really want us to be there. They really don't while they're with their friends. But because I was their group leader, I thought it was just very important for me to model the kind of relationship that I wanted with my daughter, with the other girls in the group. Because if you're a good friend, then they're going to be a better friend, and then their self-worth is so tied in with each other, then the group as a whole, when they're happier, each individual is happier. So for me, that time that I spent as a Girl Scout leader was so important, because there were certain values that we could instill. You know, your self-worth is based on your character, the person that you are, what you give to others. It was a very service-oriented group, Girl Scout group. And and we said no mean girls allowed, no bullying allowed. You have to stick up for each other. Those kind of values I wanted to instill early. I did it when they were elementary school, and then at junior high, I said, okay, someone else needs to take over because it was just too much at that point. But I was hoping that the skills that we teach them early will pass on, to when it's important, when they start making important relationships. So for you right now at this stage, what are the most common challenges or struggles do you see moms face during this stage of adolescence? What have you seen?
So when I talk to moms, I've noticed that one of the things that they struggle most with is connection,
Mhm.
especially during the adolescent stage. They notice that there's a shift in how their daughter reacts. They notice that they don't like to cuddle as much.
Mhm.
They notice that they walk right straight past them and into their room and close their door. And so a lot of moms really do struggle with connecting with their daughter at this stage.
Right.
And also even fostering some conversation, some healthy conversation. They're stuck in the role of being a mom of a child, and so they'll ask the questions that a child would answer, which a teen will probably answer with one word. I don't know. Yeah. Yes. No.
Or my least favorite answer is fine.
Fine.
I mean, so you cannot, fine is a 4-letter word as far as I'm
It's the
concerned.
F word.
So you are not allowed to answer with fine. I tell them you need to elaborate more. And it's important because a lot of the times the kids, they're just going through their own struggles emotionally and also physiologically. I mean, as a doctor, I know I see this. I see the adolescents struggle. Even when everything is perfect around their world, they just don't feel well. So, because of the changes that are going through their body. So, the last thing they want to do is discuss that with their mom. How do you tell moms to talk to their daughters when their daughters really don't want to talk to them? Because that's a big issue.
And it is a big issue, and it's something that I struggled with when I have two older
Mhm.
boys that are one's now an adult and one's on his way to becoming adult. It is a struggle for all moms to have this type of connection, have some type of conversation. But I think one thing that we need to realize is that we also need to realize our timing.
Mhm.
That just because we're ready to connect doesn't mean that they're ready to connect.
Right.
And that is the shift, because obviously in
Mhm.
adolescence, their bodies are changing, but also emotionally they're changing. They want to become independent. They're starting to pull away from the family unit.
Mhm.
And so we have to start respecting their needs as well. We're no longer the authoritative figure in the family, the on-demand child saying that because I'm asking you
Mhm.
a question, I expect you to answer it now. So now it's that dance between when is it appropriate and when is it not. And so it's really being aware of now, what are your needs for your daughter?
And not only the timing, but the topic, right? Is sometimes they're ready to talk about something, sometimes they're not ready to talk about something. And one tip that I did that was helpful for my teenage daughter and also my teenage sons is that sometimes it's hard for them to make eye contact when you're talking about something intimate. So it's easier sometimes to talk while you're doing something like walking together. So you're together, but you're not looking eye to eye. And there's a sense of, security there where they don't have to look at you in the eye, but they can still communicate with you. And I found that even talking while I'm in the car driving, so I'm focused on the road, and they're talking to me, but they're not looking at me. That was one. If I had to find like a timing of to talk about something that was kind of uncomfortable, that they felt more secure because they weren't looking eye to eye. And then once that trust gets built, then you could, table that topic or that conversation if it's a difficult conversation to, a later time. But I'm really happy that you're here because there's a program that you do that you cater to moms that's called the Rooted program. Can you tell me what that is and what that means?
Sure. So I created the Rooted program with moms of teen and tween girls in mind. I found that thinking of my mom, I wrote it really with my mom in mind and how she lacked the community, she lacked the resources and
Mhm.
tools to parent during this stage. So I created this program based on research that I've done myself as a mom of teens and took what's worked and took what didn't work and my own experience and created this program. It's to equip moms with resources and tools that they can apply without risking their relationship. And so it really is a program that has 8 modules in there. And we cover topics from self reflection, value, accountability, communication, and what we just talked about building that community that surrounds both you and your daughter, because it really truly does take a village to cater your daughter
Mhm.
and grow her into this independent young woman. So those are the types of things that we talk about in this program to really truly first let moms know that they don't have to be the perfect mom and
Right.
that they don't have to know everything, and to release that, because then they can fully embrace this relationship and pursue this relationship with their daughter. And it's a really good
Mm.
balance between rules and
Mhm.
relationship. And sometimes it's contrary, but I really do value relationship
Mhm.
over rules,
Oh, yes,
right?
for sure. Do you think how does your daughter feel about you doing this kind of program?
You
Does
know,
she think
she loves it. We have a great, amazing relationship.
Mhm.
There are days just being mom and daughter where, I know that she doesn't need me to talk to her, but a lot of the things that I talk about in the Rooted program are things that my daughter and I are experiencing. And if it wasn't for parenting my boys, I think the trial and errors of that, my daughter
Mhm.
being the youngest, she gets the benefit of that, of the trial and
Experience?
errors. Yeah. And because a mother and daughter relationship is just so different, it's
Right.
really intimate. It really helps daughters. I think that the type of relationship you have with your daughters is the type of woman you're going to become, right?
Mhm.
And so that is why I think it's just so precious to cover the mother daughter
Mhm.
relationship and just um, really equip moms to know that they're not alone
Right.
and that they can do this, and that there are some resources and tools that they can bring into their family unit to be
Mhm.
able to build this close relationship. And just it's really um, looking at teenhood in a different way. A
Mhm.
lot of moms get scared of the teen season just because of the things that they've heard or the things that they've experienced or
That's
through
very scary, right?
right?
Because
And through their own experience,
oh,
right? It's like I
you
don't want
remember being a teenager
right.
and you're thinking, "Oh my goodness, did we really feel like this?"
Exactly. My mom would always say, "Hey, it's going to come back to you 10 times with your
Right?
own children."
Yeah, payback's a bitch, right? So
But I think one thing is that, we just got to enjoy it. If we know that this is coming, what are we going to do? Be scared of it? Or are we going to lean in and prepare ourselves for it, right? And fight for our relationships?
yes, so what valuable advice or tips can you share with a mom who struggled with relating to her teen?
I would say first give yourself grace,
Mhm.
right? A lot of times we put expectations on ourselves to become this perfect mom. And if something goes wrong, then we failed at it. So one is really to give
Mhm.
yourself some grace. This is a journey. It's not a destination. And through this journey, you grow. And if you're willing to grow, then this becomes an experience that is um, beautiful. It's not to separate you from your daughter, but it's really to grow together with your daughter. Another tip would be, gosh, I have it written down here. Sorry. Keep on going.
Yeah, no. It's okay to look at your notes because there's a lot of
We're having so
things
much
that
fun.
you're thinking about. You could even think about, is there something that you could share without giving, names or out of something that you learned through the Rooted program or with experiences that you've had that you thought would be helpful?
So I have some moms that have gone through the Rooted program, and one of the things that they struggle with most is really the attitude.
Right.
and the isolation, especially during distance learning.
Right.
And I think with the uprise of anxiety and
The isolation of the team or the isolation of the mom? Because
the
I'm seeing them.
of both.
Yeah, right?
Well, it's really more of the teen, and I think
Yeah.
when moms hear that from their teen, it actually spirals their mom to be in the state of anxiety too,
Right.
because not only are they worrying about their own state of health, they're worried about their daughter's mental health. And I think a lot of times we start to freeze and we just don't know what to do. And isolation, I think, is a big enemy of that.
Right.
My tip is to see who's surrounding you. Who are you leaning and who are you reaching out to? And do you have your own community of people surrounding you? And if you do, is there a reason why you're not reaching out? Right.
Mhm. Well, women in general tend to be such social beings,
Mhm.
right? We really thrive. A lot of women will thrive when we're together as a community. And I've seen a lot of moms who miss that because they're not volunteering at school. They're not dropping off their kids at school. And I see some moms, they tell me they're just bored out of their mind and they need adult interaction. So it's hard when you're isolated and then the kids are isolated as well. And the last person they want to talk to is you.
Yes.
You know, if they have to, okay, but they don't really want to talk to their mom. You know, but it's nice to be able to foster this kind of communication. I think that when you foster this kind of relationship early with your child, then they will trust you more, right?
Yes.
If you have a relationship that's based on trust and not judgment,
Mm-hmm.
and you let them know that when we're speaking and communicating, we're trying to learn about each other and we're trying to understand where we're coming from, because understanding is very different than agreeing,
Yes.
because the teens may have a different outlook on what boyfriend they want to have compared to what you have in mind. And that's okay, because for me, as long as they love authentically, right? It's not our place to judge who that is. We just want to make sure that they have someone that's going to be respectful and have certain values that we hold dear. But that relationship that you build with your child by modeling the relationship that you have with her, I think is important, because, like you said, I think the relationship you have with her is going to impact her other relationships, not only the relationships with her boyfriend, but just her friends, right?
Right.
And the peers and the people that she ends up surrounding herself with.
Right.
And I
I
think
love
that's
everything you're
important.
saying. Yeah, exactly. And I love how you were saying about just understanding.
Mhm.
It's really it. We just have to shift ourselves to get curious about what they say and to truly get curious
Mhm.
without no agenda, right? And asking the questions about what they desire, what they think, what are their point of views,
Mhm.
because they are becoming their own individual person. And I think that the more your daughter or even your teen understands that you understand her, that trust starts to slowly grow and build.
Right.
Yeah.
I know that, it's a hard time, this COVID time, when there's a lot of isolation. But the one thing that I really appreciate about this time is that there's more family time. So there's definitely more dinner table time. I don't have to go here or there for soccer or wrestling or what other things that we had on our agenda. And we could focus on dinner conversation and spending quality time together. And I think that when you're doing that, that's when you have an opportunity to just even learn more about each other. So a lot of the times when we speak at the dinner table, I let the kids decide what the topic of conversation is going to be. What do you guys want to talk about today? It's not just about what happened in school today. And, we'll look at current events, or we'll look at a book that we've read, or someone's read, or something significant in current events, and talk about that. That's how they get to learn how you think. And I think when the more you are conversing, and I guess this is the only reason why I'm saying this, the more conversations you have, the easier it becomes. Don't you think?
Oh, yes, I totally think that. It's just like having coffee with a friend. The more
Mhm,
you have coffee and are intentional in meeting with them, the
mhm.
more you learn about them, the more you find the same common interests in
Right.
them, and there's more to talk about. And because there is more to talk about and there's more interest between the two of you, there's more opportunities
Mhm,
for you to create some intentional time around what you've discovered, with them. And I think during these conversations, they're just like little seeds, opportunities for us to plant seeds,
mhm,
one, and little seeds that we get to plant and put in our back pocket for when we
mhm.
decide that, hey, I want to spend some time with my daughter today. I have like, let's go on a date. And I remember at the table, she said she's into this. So it makes
Mhm.
it so much easier when we know our children and we base our things around what their interests are. It's just so easy for us to make that shift as moms.
You have to have the conversation.
Yes.
And it's much easier to have the difficult conversations when you've had the easy conversations, right?
Exactly, because that
So
window's
just
already open.
right? So that's what I just try to tell parents, just talk more to your kids so that they can really know the person that you are. So when you say something to them, it's not a surprise
Right,
because they know where you come from and they know who you are. Then they're
exactly,
not gonna be surprised if you expect certain things from them because they know your values. And so
exactly.
I think that's, I'm so excited that you're doing a program like this. I love that moms in our neighborhood have the opportunity to do this. I understand that you're going to have a local event and that you're going to open up a registration for the Rooted Live Intensive. So can you tell me what that is and who it's for?
Sure, so we actually just opened our registration on Monday.
Mhm.
And so we decided to take the Rooted program, the 8 modules, condense them into a 3-day intensive in person event hosted in Bonita.
Nice.
And what makes it a little bit different is that we understand that moms have a need to be in community. Like people are feeling isolated. People just need
Mhm.
to lean into each other. And we decided, you know what, why not take the resources and tools and the education from the Rooted program and have a safe space for moms to be able to process it together and grow
I love
together.
it.
So yeah, so
Yes.
it's in May. We're going to have it May 13th, 14th, 15th. The registration is open and we are going to limit it to
Mhm.
a specific number because we do want to make sure that the integrity of the program and the in-depth work that's going to happen and
Mhm.
conversations that are going to happen will happen in a
Yeah.
smaller group.
Well, it sounds like that's gonna be a special event.
Oh, we're super
So how
excited.
can people register or find out more information about it?
Sure. So they can go to my website. It's jeanniebaldomero.com /rooted live. And that
Mhm.
goes directly to information about the Rooted Life Intensive. And you can read more information about it. And if it's
Mhm.
something that you're wanting to do, we are actually having an early bird celebration for early registration, and it's $75 off until the end of this month.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. So tell us that again and, tell us the website again.
Sure.
Gee,
It's Jeannie Baldomero, JeAnnie, B as in boy, ALDOMERO.com /rooted live.
perfect. Well, thank you so much. I'm so happy that you're able to join in this very important conversation. And that's gonna conclude that's the end of our show today. I just
Thank
wanna
you.
thank all of the listeners for listening in. And I'd like to take a moment to thank our show sponsors, Attorney King, Sequan Casino, Indian Motorcycle San Diego, The Gym, and IB Fitness. Take care
Bye.
and
Thank you so
stay
much,
well.
Melinda.